Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending from where you are tuning in today. You are welcome. Welcome to another edition with Mamlakak Broadcast Network, and I am your host for today's edition, Multitasking and Autistic Tendency. As you know, we are contrasting the worldly fact with the kingdom, the original, the true. So please like us, share this broadcast with all your entourage. Why? Because you're going to hear some information today that will help someone that you may know, that may be helping yourself. Don't depend on the big pharma to tell you something else, but instead, you have to dig down into the Word of God, and then you will be able to have success. So today, before we bring our guests who were here, I think last time, Ambassador Roma Svanoper, who have written a book called I Cracked the Autism Code. But today she's going to be touching on multitasking and autistic tendency. You may ask yourself, but what is multitasking or autistic tendency? I'm glad you asked. Multitasking or autistic tendency, it could be affected by your executive functioning. So I will not say much about that, but I'm pretty sure that our guests will delve correctly on that. Before I give her the stage, let me again reintroduce to some of you who have not know her from her own sketch biography. Roma is author of the book I Cracked the Autism Code. What we didn't know about autism and ADHD that changes everything. She is very passionate person, a goal-driven advocate of human potential and purpose. She has lived with autism her entire life and eventually cracked the mystery of autism in order to live up to her full potential in life. Through writing, she intended to create a worldwide awareness and understanding of autism to improve the quality of life of people on the spectrum. Roma has a bachelor honors degree in psychology. She is an avid fitness enthusiast who spend a lot of time studying self-development courses. She has a cat named Espresso. I just love that name, Espresso, since I love coffee. Who she claims has more friends than her. Roma was born and raised in Klerksdorp, South Africa, where her love for a trail race started and currently resides in Abu Dhabi, where she works as a fitness professional. Without further ado, please welcome Ambassador Roma Svanoper. How are you today?
Hi, Veronique. I'm good, thank you. How are you today?
Doing great. There is nobody in the kingdom, right?
Well, thank you for having me on the show today, and I'm happy to talk again about the information on the book that I have on autism. So it's been earlier this year that I published a book called I Cracked the Autism Code, and if you know anyone on the spectrum, as I said earlier this week in my short video, you'll know I mean that title literally. So this really meaning that's really meant there was a code to be cracked. So last time we spoke about on the show about what this code is, and just to give you a reminder before we dig into the multitasking and autistic tendencies. So I discovered that people with autism, or at least I have autism, and I discovered that other people can do more than one conscious thing at a time, whereas I can only do one. So what I mean by that, the easiest way to quickly sum it up for you is while I'm listening to your words, say for example we're having a conversation and I'm listening to your words, I can only either hear your words, I can or listen to the voice tone, or I can look at your facial expression or at your body language, but I can do no two of those things at the same time. So I always switch between them. So people who don't have autism or ADHD, they can do all of that at the same time. They can listen to the words, interpret them. They can listen to the voice tone. They can look at the body language. They can hear the accent, for example, and I can even see other things that's going on inside the room. So I constantly switch between those things. So what this means, so I explained before that when I'm saying multitasking, I mean conscious multitasking. So there are two kinds of tasks that we do every day. One of them is conscious, that is things that require attention and or concentration. And there's automatic tasks, things like walking. So when you're walking, you don't have to think of putting one foot in front of the other. It's automatic motor movements, for example. But if you watch where you're going while you're walking, that requires interpretation. So people with autism can multitask with automatic tasks. We can walk, but while we're listening to you, we will not see where we're going. So that's an example. So I want to tell you today what multitasking, how that manifests as autistic tendencies, meaning the inability to multitask, how that shows up as as autistic tendencies. And so I will mention some of the most common autistic tendencies that meaning basically the diagnostic criteria for autism, and or meaning the autistic tendencies. So most people with autism, so they will always have challenges with social interaction. I'm going to mention a few of them. Eye contact and stuttering is often a thing with people with autism. Not everyone stutters, but we often do not make eye contact while we talk. Insistence on sameness. We don't want you to change anything in our environment. And then we often have sensory integration dysfunction, meaning we are sensitive to lights and sounds. So often sometimes, especially when it's a kid, and they are anxious in public, they can hold the eyes or the ears. You might see that and then be overwhelmed. So that's sensory integration dysfunction. And then very often there's repetitive behavior or stimming, meaning you'll see them, people with autism, especially kids who have not learned how to control that or adjust that kind of behavior. They'll, for example, rock forwards and backwards, or they'll tap with their hands on their legs to distract themselves, actually. And then often we also have a hard time, people say we have a hard time having empathy with others. So I want to use those few examples, and I want to tell you how the inability to multitask and how they are connected, basically. So you can imagine, if I can only hear your words while you're talking, and I do not hear your voice tone. So I would miss things like sarcasm, right? So I will not, if you say something, but say it in a different tone, I'm only going to hear the words. So I will miss if you were being, for example, sarcastic, or sometimes making a joke, or just saying something different with your body language, for example, than what you mean. So this is why they often say we interpret things directly, because we only get one thing at a time. So you can imagine how this influences our our social development. So we do not get everything during a conversation. While people are talking and they see many things, they can listen to many people and switch back and forth between them and see what's going on in the room. We only hear one thing, and then we hear another thing, and we do not understand necessarily the context of it, because we don't get the voice tone, we don't see the faces, we don't see the body language. So this is why we often have high anxiety and social situations, because we don't get what's going on in the social environment, and there's just so much going on, we just can't keep up, and we don't understand what's happening, we don't understand what we're missing, why we're missing it, why everyone else is getting it. So it's like skipping through many, for example, you skip through many TV channels to see what you want to watch, while you're sitting next to me, and then like 100 of them, and then afterwards you ask me what the conversation was about. I don't know. So that's kind of what we get. We get a little bit piece of information here, there. This is in a group environment, so you can understand how the inability to multitask with conscious tasks causes us to have big challenges with social interaction if we're not aware what is happening. So I have had the opportunity to get to crack this code and understand what it is. So I do not try to multitask during conversations anymore. I do not try to hear people's voice tone and their words at the same time, but I'm aware that there are things that I cannot do. So for example, I listen to the words, and then once people stop talking, I'll look at their face, and then see if I can get more meaning. So I became quite good at it. This is why you would consider me in a conversation at the level of someone who does not have autism. It's very rarely that I'm going to miss something during conversation. But yes, so this is how the inability to multitask affects social interaction, and I stretched on that because that's quite a big one. The next one that I mentioned was eye contact and stuttering. So these are all chapters in my book, by the way. So if you wanted to know more on that, this is the book, like Veronique mentioned before, and you'll see that I have the topic there, multitasking and autistic tendencies. So I also have before that the explanation how I got to the information. That's what we discussed last time. So eye contact and stuttering. So you can imagine, if I don't see your face while you're talking and I'm listening to you, it would make absolutely no sense for me to look at you in the eyes, because I literally don't see you. In fact, it's quite distracting, because now I'm trying to look and listen at the same time. So this is why we often just look away to listen. So the sad irony is that people often think that we are disinterested. We may or may not be, depending on that personality or interest, but if I'm listening to your words, everything you say, that's my whole world. I cannot think even my own thoughts at that time. So I'm generally, you have my full attention, whether I look you in the eyes or not. So I just set my eye level on yours, so to help you basically to know that, so that I'm listening to you, but also people treat me better when I actually, when they think I'm looking them in the eye, but they don't know I'm blind while I'm listening to them. But yeah, this is why I wanted to give you the reason why the inability to multitask will affect us when it comes to eye contact. So the good thing is, once you know it, we can treat it correctly. I mentioned before last time that up until now, autism has been treated as a neuro social disability, and really it's a multitasking issue. So neuro means brain, so this is just the way the brain develops, and social is, it comes as a social disability that we have, but really it becomes one when we don't understand what the real problem is, and that is just multitasking. So so yeah, you can imagine how that affects us socially if we don't know how to that we should, keep our eye level. And so I mentioned last time, I mentioning it again because it's quite important to understand, especially so eye contact in stuttering. I knew someone that was stuttering to the point that he could not get a word out, literally putting his hands in the air, just trying to get a word out. And I asked him to look down and tell me what he wanted to say. And he looked down and he spoke fluently. And this is someone on the spectrum, or at least I believe he is. And when I asked him, when he looked up again, I explained it to him that I believe he's trying to read my face and hear my words at the same time. Oh, sorry, and speak at the same time. And I believe he cannot do that. Neither can I. So I asked him to, from now on, only when he speaks, to only keep the eye level, but forget about the other person's face completely. He can look at the face after he spoke or after he listened to the words, but never to try to read the face while he's talking, so, or even listening. And this person never stuttered again. So this is just from understanding the real problem. So you can imagine in therapy sessions, so his therapy was speech therapy, he didn't need it anymore. So you can imagine how many people it can help in the therapy context if they understood how to treat the real problem, instead of keep trying to tell people with autism to make eye contact, make eye contact, and they really like look at me, they really can't. So and they don't know they can't, they don't know you can. So it's very, very confusing. So this is how the inability to multitask affects eye contact for people with autism. So, and then I mentioned insistence on sameness. You often see people with autism, we don't want you to change anything in our environment. We sometimes even want to wear the same clothes. We want to drive the same route every day. And some people, as they get older, they're able to be more flexible depending on how functioning they are, how high functioning. But at the base, we really like things to be kept the same. Color of the car. If we have to change the car, we often want the same car, the same color, things like that. Just don't change things. And sometimes this can become a big thing, especially with kids on the spectrum, because they really insist on it, and the therapists and parents don't know how to deal with it. But what I would like people to know is that what the real cause of the behavior is. And as I mentioned, so we can't multitask with concentration tasks. So you imagine the most biggest part of my day, I am blind because I listen to people's words. I listen to my own thoughts. And that means during that time I cannot see. So literally, even while I'm driving, I don't have the luxury of dozing off on my own thoughts or anything. I have to what I'm driving. So I can switch, but I cannot do the two at the same time. So bottom line is we're blind most of the day. So if you move things out of their normal place, it requires extra effort. So I get used to how my car looks. So so for example, if I were to change my car, now it's an extra effort to think, what car do I have again? And now I'm looking for a different car. So for example, if when I'm driving to work, I mentioned this in the book, when I drove to work before, I was driving the same route every day, almost at the same time. And one time it was a little bit, the lightning was different. It was a bit darker. And I thought I was lost. It was not dark. It was just a little bit darker. And I thought I was lost because I did not recognize the route. So I thought I was lost. And I could not put on the map on my phone. So you can imagine the stress just doing that, because every day, even though I've driven that route for over a year, I only see it a certain way because I just see in front of me. I don't see everything next to me. So just that change in lightning had me confused, and I thought I was lost. So technically we're blind out there most of the time. So this is why we would insist, same way as someone who cannot see would insist, please don't move things around. Please, so I can see so that I can remember where I'm going, or, that just makes life easier when you don't have to think of new things. So things become automatic. And then I mentioned sensory integration dysfunction. So that's when our brain interprets sensory input. They say the way we interpret it is a dysfunction because we get overwhelmed by lights, or our hearing, or we're sensitive with the skin, so you can't sometimes touch us. We don't like to be touched. And I also need people to understand why that is, so that it can be treated for what it is. So again, people think that's a social problem, or also a neuro, but social problem. And really what happens is, you can imagine if I can only, if only one part of my brain works at a time, I can only do one conscious thing at a time. If I'm getting anxious, for example, I cannot really control where I want to put my attention, just like you also would get thrown off when you're anxious. Now, the difference is when someone with autism is anxious, that's even worse, because our only attention we have, conscious attention, will go to the sharpest stimulus in the room. So it's usually what's the strongest stimulus in the room would be like a sharp light, or a specific sound of even a clock. It doesn't necessarily have to be loud. It can just be what your brain catches at that moment. So that be the only thing we hear. For example, I'd hear that the clock ticking, and it sounds like you literally, it sounds incredibly loud and detailed. And that is because the brain can only do that one thing, interpret that one thing at a time. So in my opinion, it's not necessarily a dysfunction. It is just the way that the brain can only do one thing at a time. So this is why we get overwhelmed by a stimulus, and we would like literally hold our ears or our eyes because it's so overwhelming. And same thing with touch, by the way. There are two different kinds of touch. We have fine touch and firm touch. So fine touch would be if you were to stroke this book lightly over me, which I would not do because that actually hurts me. My brain interprets that as pain. So, and then we get firm touch. So with a moving kind of soft touch, my brain has to multitask, because fine touch, the soft one, it actually I have to feel and I have to locate. So it's actually multitasking. My brain cannot do that. So it just throws it out as a no, ouch. This is pain, this is wrong, this is so this is why we get overwhelmed. But with firm touch, meaning I do not have to locate where it is actually, because it's not a moving touch. So that's just one thing. So it's not overwhelming for the brain. So that's another thing. So this manifests different with different people. So I, for example, only wear fitted clothes now because when I wear loose clothes, they move on my skin and I walk funny. So fitted clothes means I do not get overwhelmed. Some people cannot wear fitted clothes, and it doesn't mean that they have a different problem. Some people with autism, it just means that maybe they have long hair under the clothes, for example, and that may be moving around and they get the same thing. They get fine touch. So they'll get overwhelmed. And then they will ask for loose clothes, but they'll still be overloaded from that, but they might be less. Bottom line, whichever clothes they're like sensitive to, it's the same problem. I have discovered this as a fine, but it's a multitasking issue when it comes to touch too. The professionals out there do not know that yet, but that can make things a lot easier when they understand it. So that's still sensory integration dysfunction. I'm happy to give you, what's the word? A hack that I discovered, and this changed my life. Is that so? I was thinking, okay, if my brain can only do one conscious thing at a time, and I get overwhelmed by, say, for example, a vacuum cleaner, which is very sharp, it would be the same as blowing a whistle in a dog's ear, because it can be so fine when it's focused, when that's the only thing the brain, hears. So I figured, okay, if I switch my attention to something else, for example, if I listen to a song, guess what? I cannot hear the vacuum anymore. So this is very important to understand. Now, I'm not saying this is the way to avoid being overwhelmed sensory for everyone. I'm not saying teach people on the spectrum just to change their attention. Sometimes they still need to change their environment because it's just an overwhelming environment. But when we understand that, so when I understand it, for example, that helped me in just out there in the world socially in a shop. Like if you have any idea how hard it would be for me before just to go shopping for, I don't know, toothpaste even. I only see one thing at a time, for example, and now there are so many things my brain is switching between different smells, different people I'm hearing. I'm afraid people touch me anyway. So this just overwhelming. But when I understood that, okay, just focus on one thing and not everything. Just listen to one thing. It just became, my world became a much more silent place. And then when something becomes overwhelming, for example, the smell of the fish while I'm walking in the fish market, if I switch my attention consciously, then I do not have to smell that anymore. So I'm not overwhelmed anymore. So I have more practical examples in the book, but I felt like it's important if I really wanted to mention that. And then I mentioned before repetitive behavior and stimming. So when we're just doing the same thing or, move backwards and forwards, for example, it's a very repetitive behavior. So we'd often rock between our, for example, heels and toes, just back and forth, and it's to calm ourselves down. So the professionals discovered that it actually calms us down. But I would like to tell you why it would calm us down, what multitasking has to do with it in the first place. So if again, if I can only do one conscious thing at a time, I can only talk, or I can only listen, or I can only hear. So if I were to want to calm myself down when I'm anxious, if I do this and I feel it actually, the only thing that's going on in my world is that feeling. So I forget about whatever makes me anxious. I can physically not think of that. So this is even why kids would sometimes, little kids, when for example, I heard about it, there was a 3-year-old lady I know. She has a 3-year-old who is diagnosed with autism, and when the baby sister cried, this 3-year-old would hit his head against the wall repetitively. So that is obviously very disturbing. So, and I can tell you that while they're hitting it, they're either probably hearing it and not feeling it, because that sound is so sharp, so they're distracting themselves from the sound. Now they cannot hear the sound anymore, but they have to continue doing a repetitive behavior, otherwise they'll hear the sound again. They can probably not feel that it hurts at that time. So they're not, there's nothing wrong with them necessarily mentally, it's just they can't multitask. So if I go for a facial, for example, Dermapen, which is quite intense, it's needles. My dermatologist asked me questions, so I talked to her, because guess what? While I'm talking, I cannot feel. So even if she were to cut me, I would not feel it, literally. So yeah, that is how why we do something that's repetitive to distract ourselves in public or whenever we're anxious. And then I wanted to mention one more, and that's empathy. I say that very often we get people think we do not empath.
Me, hello, can you hear me? At least for some reason, our guest dropped out from the live stream. So I will try to kind of give you what she was saying, a little bit, summarize all that she said. Wow, it's really difficult to know that people out there have to go through all what they have to go through as Ambassador Roma. It's not easy for people who suffer autism to multitasking. Can you imagine that? That they have to be focused, or they, and then even difficult for them if they kind of changing their cultivated habit. If they try to change their cultivated habit or alter their habit, it's totally another world for them. We truly need to emphasize on this word and send this word out there for many people to be able to understand truly what people with autism deal with every day. And in her book, she's lecturing us today directly from her book, I Crack the Autism Code. In case you missed the previous show with us, you could go into our YouTube or any platform. You will find that the book. Thank you, my producer, for highlighting that book. You could find that book, I Crack the Autism Code. So today, our guest is able to be multitasking. How many children, how many people out there? And sometimes we are quick to judge them without knowing what they are truly going on in their mind or in their heart and their brain. They're suffering. And the medication will not help. And I feel that before she dropped off the line, she's coming back. She said something that she hacked. So I call her a hacker. Oh, thank you for coming back again. I know that you drop off the line. I was trying to do something. So I was just trying.
Was I dropping off the line? I did not know what happened. Was it my line?
Yeah.
Probably. Sorry.
It's fine. It's fine. I was trying just to recap what you said for the last almost 30 minutes. And then I was kind of just putting point there how it's very difficult for the people who suffer or who are suffering with autism to be for their environment to be altered and all or their cultivated habit to be changed. It's not easy. So hearing from you and listening to everything that you went through and how you hack the system. Oh, I love that. I love the word. Because autism, we could call it a virus. Autism is like a virus in the human body, if we say. So the creator, Yahweh, gave you that insight to hack that virus. Can you please elaborate on that one?
How I embrace the autistic, meaning autism. So um, yes, I was. I mentioned actually previously when we were on the show and before that my motivation for cracking this code, and I really just I wanted to become the best I can be on this earth. And I thought what would be in my heart, to do what is my passion, my purpose. And I discovered, that I really want to sing, I want to dance. And the challenge just that I had was just um like I had to change to become what I saw in my mind, what I wanted to be. So it was easy before to just think that everyone else is different. This is often something we say, it's just a different kind of thinking, autism. And I respect that, it really is. But in my case, I needed to become like other people. I needed to be at least be able to do what they do and understand what they understand, in order to become good at singing, become good at dancing, because I found I had a hard time expressing. So I really had to do that. So I was willing to be wrong. I was willing to change, and I'm not saying everyone should. This was my journey, but I wanted to understand, what is it that really makes us different. Then what can people who don't have autism do that we can't? So this is how I embraced it. It was kind of like studying a brain that is not things that my mind cannot do. So it's almost like taking on the impossible. But it would have been the same thing if people, even professionals in the field, are studying our brains, autistic brains, because their brains do not think the way we think. So we needed to. I wanted to bridge that gap. I wanted to see what that means in practice. So as I said, to be able to practice my God-given gifts on earth, because I believe that whatever you can see in your mind and understanding, you should be able to do. So I could see in my mind that I'll be able to sing and fully express myself and dance. So I knew it's possible if my brain can do it. If I can vision it, there has to be a way to do that. But it wasn't practical at the time, because I can't even interact appropriately with people. So yeah, this is how I embraced the and why I embraced understanding autism. So yeah, why I wanted to bridge that gap and understand what that meant in reality, not just from a brain scan point of view, meaning the neurotypical and the autistic brain, how they work differently if we look at images, but what does that mean in practical terms? And I found and that meant I had to ask many questions to people who don't have autism to see what they can do that I cannot do. And it just came down to multitasking. So so that's what I learned and explored. So final, I said I was going to explain the empathy side of things. So very often we present as, especially when we were younger, we didn't have the chance to to really develop socially. We present as disinterested and don't understand people's emotions. And guess what? We often don't understand it, and we often we are disinterested. But I'll tell you why, and that is because again, we cannot multitask with conscious tasks, so we miss things. We do not know. We hear the words, we hear the story that you're telling, but we don't necessarily see you're crying. We don't understand the social context. Well, what is happening? Why are you upset? We never had a chance necessarily to interact with people the way others does. So we don't feel your feelings because we didn't experience that. We didn't have the chance to have our hearts broken. We did not have that. I'm not saying, I mean, when people get older, they may get more social experience, but it's just the social growth for someone on the spectrum is so much slower because we just don't get the opportunity during interaction to see everything and to know everything that's going on. It's like it's like being in a country where people speak a different language and we don't know it. We just don't know it, and we can't learn it unless we're taught. So this is something we don't naturally pick up because, like I say, we can't multitask, see your face and hear your words at the same time and hear your voice tone. So we can't put all of that together and then also know what the person next to you is feeling like, where they're coming from. There's so many things. So it took deliberate intention for me to learn how about others. It took interest to want to know how others feel, to want to experience the feelings they feel. It took courage to be vulnerable and say, "Oh, okay, I've never experienced this kind of emotions. Tell me what you're feeling." It took courage because I didn't have that chance to develop socially. So in the last 5 years, I had a big growth. What is the word? Peak. I don't know. I've not grown this much in the last 5 years, my entire year, at least on a social level. So yeah, so I just wanted to explain why we often appear like we don't empathize. We don't get the chance to do that. But and I'll close with this for now, is when we understand that other people can multitask. So what I would have wanted if someone understood this code, if they taught me that, listen, other people can do these things. They can hear your words, hear your voice tone, see your body language, your facial expression at the same time, and they can see interaction between others also at the same time. So they get to learn a lot of things. So you need to ask many whys. Like if someone tell you they're upset, you need to ask why. You need to so if I understood that it takes real intention, I would also be less afraid to explore other people's emotions, because before I was just missing things, and now I actually understand. Oh, okay, I simply can't multitask, so it's okay to just ask questions. So yeah, with that, I just wanted to explain how the inability to multitask also affect how we appear when it comes to empathy. So yeah, back to you, Veronique.
Wow, that is beautiful, Ambassador Roma. You are actually giving us a lot of nuggets and a very good keys to people who oftentimes we are quick to judge without knowing what they're really going through. And you in hacking that system of the virus called autism and cracking the code of autism could actually liberate almost more than 2 billion people around the globe, which I come to know that when I was making some research on how many people are affected with that virus called autism. And here you are, after suffering almost all your life, and finally the Creator, Yahweh, gave you those keys. I am so much appreciative to have you on our platform again for the second time so that you could elaborate more on about your book and how you came to write the book. It's not just something that you woke up overnight. You say, okay, I'm going to write a book about this, but it's from your own life experience. And this is powerful. So I'm trying to admonish everyone out there. You may have in your family someone who is suffering for autism. You may have maybe a child, a cousin, an uncle, an aunt, or the mother, the father who is suffering from this. And what the doctor will just tell them is just to give them piece after piece after piece after piece that even cause the virus worse. Correct? Am I right on that, Ambassador Roman? Back to you.
It's a bit tricky with the medication, yes. But in terms of therapy, yes, it's challenging when we don't have, you know, the full idea. And I definitely get that people are in the therapy industry are giving the best they have. But I am trusting that with this new information, they can, you know, form better strategy. So and then, like I said before, with this person I knew that didn't even need the talk therapy, speech therapy anymore. So hopefully many people on the spectrum will have less need for therapy, you know, and when they do, that it be, you know, spot on with adjusted techniques coming from you know, the knowledge really what autism is and how that is different. So yes, absolutely. I believe that people's quality of life can change immensely with this knowledge. Yes.
Beautiful. Exactly. And that is why we're going to be honing on, not try to advertise medication, because medication actually kills all those functionality in your body. So we actually hone on that multiple therapies that you try to advertise now, or maybe giving to people. Where can people find your book, if I may so ask, and also if you have some final remarks so that we could wrap up this powerful show today? Thank you
Sure,
very much.
sure. So the book is on Amazon. The main publishing site is Amazon.com. It's also on, I mean, it might be in your country, in most countries like Europe. If it's just not on all the Amazons, but you'll definitely find it on Amazon.com. If you don't find it, that's where it is. There's also an audio book if you don't like reading. There's an audio book recorded already. The book is actually very short and simple, very easy read. I'm not a person who I use complicated words, so straight to the point. So is my book, very easy to understand. And yes, so I definitely recommend that for anyone who wants to understand autism better. And even ADHD, I have a chapter on it. I do not have so much advice for ADHD yet, but there's the cracked code also there. And yes, please enjoy the book, and I trust it will bless many people.
Indeed, it will bless many people. I'm positive on that one, because for me that is a huge innovation in the medical field. Instead of trying to cause the people to depend on those pills and those that they could just buy your book and they will get the answer right there. And then if they practice it, that they will see quickly the results, as we could see the result on you, because now you can multitask. You imagine that you couldn't multitask before. Wow. It's almost unimaginable. I was blown away when you were just giving us those keys that, okay, you know, the inability for people who suffer autism could not multitask. I said, wow. It was just a jolt coming down. Thank you very much for sharing your experience with Mamlakak Broadcast Network today. So we have again, maybe I think, yes, we have 8 minutes. Anything that you want to add on that before we wrap up this powerful show today?
I guess just in the book there's um, more on if you want to know the way forward, like how this information I just gave you, how it can be applied practically. I have examples in the book for it, so you find it there, practical examples after all the chapters in part 2. So meaning how to apply it, how to so that it will help you with the person you know who's on the spectrum. And I want to add that it's a spectrum, and it's called a spectrum because people on the spectrum present it differently. Some people are high functioning, as they call us, and we are able to, learn a lot, do a lot, and some people are literally disabled. So if they're not able to understand, obviously, it won't. This information will not help them practically as much, but it will still help the person trying to understand them better. They'll still understand their behavior better. So yeah, I just wanted to say that as a precautionary. This is not a cure. Autism doesn't have a cure, but when you understand what makes the brain different, someone on the spectrum, you can have a great quality or better quality life when you actually, have the awareness. So knowledge is power.
And I can't say it better than that. You really summarize and give us your final remark perfectly. And I would quickly like our producer if she can highlight your book, as so we're going to be wrapping up this show for today, so that and keep that book there so that people could actually, if you could scan your camera, or you just take your camera, take a picture of that book, and then yeah, it could be a very good present for someone coming up next, because we're having already the Thanksgiving soon. So that could be a very good present, a very good read. And as she said, the author herself, she said that there is another version of the book, which is the audio. So some people, sometimes, maybe you went to the gym or you're working out, you could just tap those earphones, or just even listening to that. And that will be very, very beneficial. Again, we wanted to thank you, Ambassador Roma Svano Power, for coming back again for the second time. And I know that you're going to come back for the next, because there's another book in you, which is going to come out soon. So, on that note, I would like, on behalf of Mamlakak Broadcast Network, to say, please follow us on all our various social platforms, on YouTube, on Twitter, or now as on Telegram, on TikTok, and Facebook, on Reddit, on Rumble, BitChute, all the social platforms, we are in it. Because why? As our guests say, that knowledge is power. So therefore, get that knowledge, and all you're getting, get the understanding of the knowledge, so that you could apply the knowledge that you get. And this is our end today. Thank you very much, Ambassador Roma Swanupe. Please stay in the backstage, don't go, and so that we could just chit chat before. And that's it. Let us weigh our wire.
Oh, wow.